Yo, good morning. We have sports and fitness rants in the house on this Wednesday morning, this hump day rant day. Welcome to the show, everyone. We're starting on time. People are filtering in slowly. Robin, say what's up to the people.
Yeah, you guys know the deal, man. Me and AOH coming early with you guys on a Wednesday hump day. Shout out to everybody that's already in the comment section. My man Van, Justin Messenger. Of course, Renee 43 is there. AC24, Mr. Chicago Bulls. What's up to all you guys? You guys know the deal, man. Let's roll.
Mr. Chicago Bulls, are you from Chicago by any chance? Were you actually in Chicago during MJ's 6-ring years? I really want to tap into people that lived through that and learn from them, you know, what they felt and watched, seeing it in reality versus what the media has portrayed to people. And speaking of what the media has portrayed to people, I have to open up with an apology to Michael Jordan, of all people. We'll get to that in a second. We still got people filtering in. And then, of course, we'll make fun of LeBron James's latest therapy session with Steve Nash. Boy, this guy's relentless. Robin, is this from yet another show, or is this just a segment from a previous show? Every time I look up, it's like another LeBron James needs to explain away his failures. I mean, are there ever X's and O's on this X and O podcast?
That's the interesting question, AOH. The X's and O's, and where are they? Because I've seen people in the comment section of some of those videos that has popped up on my feed for whatever the reason, and they're asking where the X's and O's are. Where is all the, education? Where's all them breaking down film and showing people and highlighting certain things? And like I said, basically telling people or showing people what they're talking about as far as basketball goes. We don't get any of that anymore. What you're getting on there is, like we talked about, the rewriting of history. And LeBron James seems to be taking aim at people like us, the people on social media, and the things that he says he supposedly hears out there.
Fact says X's and O's is hugs and kisses for them. Ben asked if I rewatched the Hall of Fame speech. Yes, that's exactly what I'm referring to. Are you the one who called me out? Somebody called me out. Like I said, we'll get to that. And Mr. Seavey says, I lived there for a year during the peak of MJ's run while going to college. Damn, that sounds like a good time in life.
Nice.
Very nice.
I see a lot of people coming in, man. Thank you to all you guys that continue to support our live streams, man. Sometimes me and AOH, we hit you with random lives, and you guys are still here, man. So shout out to BDCB, shout out to M. Hater Stevie, Callie Young, Armand Smith, Moon, shout out to Tito Tarantula, Zero Flops. Thank you to all you guys, man.
Oh, Ben says, no, he was correcting the dude that called me out. Well, I guess we'll get to it. Let's put the GOAT up on the stage here. So, Robin, I don't know if you caught it, but I think I did a video. I was calling out that Goblin boy on Breakfast Basketball that was, the LeBron apologist who pretends that he's a Jordan guy. And then he was like trying to claim that Michael Jordan, due to some things he's done in the past, would have been just like LeBron during the social media era. And I was like, yeah, of course that's stupid. But I did say one thing. I was like, MJ's Hall of Fame speech could have been a little bit better. And, he showed like some bitterness by calling out all these people. And you know what? I went back and I watched it because somebody in the comments said, I don't agree with you. And I went back and I watched it. And it's really not what I thought it was. And here I am being an example of media manipulation, because back at the time I kept hearing, oh, what's Jordan's problem? He called out all these people during his Hall of Fame speech. And I took their word for it. It really wasn't that bad. Like it didn't come off as bitter or insecure. It came off as, hey, I remember these things and it helped motivate me. And he added humor to it. Like it wasn't anywhere near as bad as I'd been led to believe that it was, which says two things. It shows, using myself as an example, how easily the media can manipulate you, and two, that they were always hard on Jordan. Like even the Hall of Fame speech that turns out wasn't bad, they were scrutinizing it. And here we live in an age where they say that LeBron is the most scrutinized player ever. Well, here's Jordan with a pretty decent speech getting scrutinized. In the meantime, we have LeBron going up to the ESPYs, having his wife introduce him as the GOAT and all this other ridiculous, telling us that we love him, telling us that we're lucky he's not retiring, and that type of crap. And a couple of people sort of kind of said, hey, LeBron, that wasn't great, but that's about as bad as it got. And I didn't hear anyone annihilate him the way that he deserved to be annihilated. So there's my thoughts on that. What do you think, Robin?
Now, I've never listened to Michael Jordan's entire Hall of Fame speech from the first minute to the last minute. I've listened to it in bits and pieces, and I've heard the whole entire thing, like I said, in bits and pieces. I've never watched it from the first minute all the way through to the end. But with the one thing that I know about Michael Jordan that we all expect from Michael Jordan is for him to be honest and be his true self. In that Hall of Fame speech, Michael Jordan was being true to himself. And that's all we can expect from these athletes is to be true to themselves. And once again, to show the level of respect for the game that they play, a certain level of respect to the fans, right? A certain level of respect for themselves and their contemporaries for the game that they play, man. LeBron James doesn't come across that way. LeBron James is not true to himself. LeBron James tries to double speak. LeBron James is tweeting things, then deleting tweets. Michael Jordan says what he means. See, Michael Jordan's not going to take none of that stuff back. He's not going to take anything back. Even in the Last Dance documentary, Michael Jordan stated, I don't care what you tell me. There's no way you can get me to believe that Isaiah Thomas wasn't an a-hole. Right. But he said, I understand and I recognize Isaiah Thomas' skills on the basketball court. So right. He said, I still have him number 2 all time behind Magic Johnson as the number 2 greatest point guard of all time. So once again, Michael Jordan understood and respected Isaiah Thomas' skills. But what do you get from someone like Isaiah Thomas? He trashed Michael Jordan every chance he gets and won't be honest. So Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame speech, well, like I said, was him being true to himself. And everyone expected that. You expected Michael Jordan to be that competitor. There was a quote during the Last Dance documentary, or a word that Michael Jordan used, and he said that, I don't want to be seen as a cutthroat. He goes, I'm a competitor. I wouldn't necessarily call me a cutthroat. But that's who Michael Jordan was, man. He was out there to win by any means necessary.
Yeah, what do we always talk about on this show, Robin? Consistency. And right. At least Jordan was consistent. He's like, hey, I remembered these things. And a lot of what was in his Hall of Fame speech ended up being in the Last Dance. He just told those stories first during the Hall of Fame speech. And then we heard them again through other documentaries and eventually the Last Dance. And guess what? In Michael Jordan's case, at least the story doesn't change because he wasn't fucking lying. Like with LeBron, we're like, which version of the story are we going to get this time?
Right. And the interesting thing about what that guy Danny Parkins said on that show when he talked about Michael Jordan, using all of these things as in his Hall of Fame speech and throwing this stuff at people, calling people out. Like that dude Carton said in that same segment, he said Michael Jordan used it as fuel to fuel him. He never used it as an excuse or a crutch or played the victim. None of this stuff. So when people heckled Michael Jordan in the crowd, he used that as fuel. He didn't go over there and be, hey, I want this guy removed. He used that and threw it back at them. He used it to destroy their team, right? That's what Michael Jordan was known to do. So when this guy talks about, or anytime we hear LeBron James fans talk about the social media era, oh my God, what would Michael Jordan have done if people were talking trash about them or talking about him on their computers and making up all this stuff? Michael Jordan would use it as fuel. He wouldn't be crying about it. He would not even acknowledge it to the common people out here. Michael Jordan would internalize these things like he always did, and then later on we'd hear a story that Michael Jordan saw a comment from someone on Twitter, and he used that to destroy their team. That's what you would get from Michael Jordan. You wouldn't get Michael Jordan making burner accounts, going after the fans, Michael Jordan being all sensitive and crying, yo, they keep saying that I ain't got a bag. I heard I ain't got no bag. You're not going to hear that from Michael Jordan.
And you hear it from Michael Jordan first. Like everything that you said, that's not speculation. The media didn't have to try and interpret it. Michael Jordan got up on stage and said, hey, I remember these things and they motivated me. You know, I understand why they happened, but it doesn't change the fact that it made me want to prove you wrong. And I think it's a stretch to say that that's an insecurity. Someone who wants to prove other people wrong, that sounds like a drive to me.
If anything, AOH, Michael Jordan, you could accuse him of being petty to a degree because he took the littlest slights or things that he perceived as being a slight, and he made it, exaggerated it so that it could fuel him. I mean, think about all the stories that you hear about Michael Jordan. I mean, you hear people talk about Michael Jordan walking into their locker room before the game and be like, yo, who's guarding me? That's an easy 50. This is what Michael Jordan did, man. Psychological warfare, the confidence, Michael Jordan believing in himself, Michael Jordan being comfortable in his own skin. So he's not worried about the outside noise. He used it. LeBron James is not comfortable in his own skin. That's why he has to rewrite his history. That's why he's always playing the victim. It's always woe is me with LeBron James. He has no, like I said, he doesn't hold himself and carry himself like a Michael Jordan, like a Larry Bird, like a Kobe Bryant, like a Magic Johnson. He don't walk with that same aura.
He actually said in the Hall of Fame speech, and this is obvious looking back, but he worded it a little bit differently to where I was like, oh, yeah. He said, when you've been competing for so long and you've actually achieved a lot along the way, you actually have to look for more things to keep you going. And that makes sense. It's like, hey, and he said as much the first time that he retired. It's like, listen, I've kind of lost the drive. You know, I accomplished this and that, and I've got other things in life I'm going to pursue. And maybe some of it was therapy. You know, he went to play baseball because his dad liked baseball and he had lost his father. But, you know, there's got to be some truth to it. He just won 3 in a row. And back then, everyone wasn't worried about accumulating stats and whatnot. And then he came back. He couldn't stay away from it. Let's catch up with some super chats. Very, very much appreciate the super chats, people. YouTube's being very mean to me. Very, I mean, really. So this one is Praise the Dawn is directing this to you. SNFR is the GOAT. Not only did you call out con artist FYF. Sorry, my fucking screen keeps going out on me.
I'll read it, AOH.
All right, go ahead, man.
Not only did you call out the con artist FYF, the McDonald's bandit Low, but also the 50-year-old who wants to appease to Gen Z kids to make it like he's the quote-unquote cool old head.
Which
Yo,
one's
shout out to my man, Praise the Don. Thank you to all you guys, man. Praise the Don. You're a true supporter, man. And this is why I'm here, man. I know my man AOH is not into the back and forth with some of these other channels, but this is part of the reason why I'm here, guys. To set the record straight on a lot of these clowns, like the Legends of Winning, that dude, Chilltown Hoops, and of course, FYF, the biggest clown on here outside of GOAT James Kingdom.
A McDonald's bandit. Wow. Who's the cool? Who's the 50-year-old? Who's he?
That's the guy named Chilltown Hoops. I just did a video on him yesterday, calling him out for some of his nonsensical takes. And this dude is like 50 years old. I don't know what the hell he's talking about, trying to make up narratives, you know, about Michael Jordan that make no sense. And supposedly, people have been telling me in the comments that he's the cousin of Shaquille O'Neal.
Interesting. All right. Well, maybe we can circle to this at the end, but we got bigger fish to fry. I'm sure you already cooked those guys plenty on your own rant. And we have Jolly Joshins. My screen went out again. I'm going to need to do a collection to get a fucking new screen. Robin, you want to read this for me?
I got you. Morning, gentlemen. Morning to my man, Jolly Joshins. Felt the need to give a little extra because you guys have been on a roll. The last AOH breakdown was great, and I have been loving learning the details of basketball history from Sports and Fitness Rants. Thank you to Jolly Joshrams, man. Like I said, you guys truly humble us with the support, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought that was a decent video, if I don't mind saying so myself, and I am up to a whopping 16,000 views, which is not going to cut it. So I don't know what's happening. But
hey, it's a lot more than I get, man.
Well, I put about a week of editing into it too. I didn't just turn the camera.
That is true, AOH.
Count Kilroy says, when you're good, you tell people. When you're great, people tell you. Indeed.
That's right.
Walter Payton. And then
that's right, Walter Payton. And remember, when we talk about Walter Payton, guys, Walter Payton wasn't just that he was a great football player. Walter Payton was a great human being, a humanitarian. That's why they have the Walter Payton Humanitarian Award given to the NFL players, man. They even have a patch that's designated for that award that you earn. So once again, shout out and rest in peace to the great Walter Payton, man, and everything that he represented out there.
Would anyone mind clarifying for me if LeBron's latest insecure comments are from yet another episode, or if they're still being circulated from a past episode? One of the reasons I'm asking is that can he just shut the F up for a little bit, like maybe during the NBA finals? Like, he has no awareness of the fact that he's being disrespectful and so self-centered. Like, just does it always have to be about you? And of course, the other one I saw on Uncommon Sense is I did a members only response to it, but that he did a tweet pretending that he was contemplating retirement again in the middle of the finals. We all know that you're not fucking retiring. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And how do we know that he's not retiring? One word: narcissism.
Yeah.
We know that you won't retire without setting up some grand finale.
Exactly. That's a great point, AOH. And I saw in an article on ESPN the other day that I touched on about LeBron James talking about he's focused on getting his knee healthy for the beginning of training camp next season.
Oh.
And in the same article, LeBron James mentions possibly playing with Bryce in the NBA. So you know LeBron James ain't going nowhere this year.
Okay, so this brings us back to him getting busted dancing his ass off when he's supposed to be recovering. And then, of course, his fanboys defended him, as they will no matter what, and saying, oh, well, that's in the timeline of healing. Well, then why do we still need to be hearing about him focusing on getting his knee rehabbed? Are those dance routines part of him focusing on healing? Is that part of the therapy?
Remember, AOH, this is going to be a built-in excuse next year for LeBron James. That's what he's setting it up for, so that they can milk this entire whole thing next year. So they'll say, oh, LeBron James can't play 82 games this season. He's got to miss a certain amount of games. He's got to miss this game because his knee's acting up. Or he's got to sit out of here because his knee's acting up. That's all they're doing right now. It's the typical LeBron James thing. The same thing they did a couple of years ago with the foot injury. LeBron James saw the LeBron James of foot doctors. The LeBron James of foot doctors told him he had Wolverine-like healing abilities, but yet still, throughout that next season, all they kept milking was the foot injury. It doesn't make any sense. The foot injury that he still never received medical treatment for or surgery for, even though they kept saying that he needed surgery.
Yeah, the one that he said, if I do get surgery, you'll never know. One of the weirdest, I mean, there are probably 5 of the weirdest things I've ever heard anyone say in that one interview. Fucking wacko. But
you know, I'm not really sure though, AOH, if these comments about the ring culture came on a separate episode. I'm not really sure how they do the breakdowns or how they, divide the episodes. Because like I said, for some reason, I'm getting a lot of Mind the Game popping up on my YouTube feed, even though I've repeatedly told YouTube I don't want to see this stuff on my YouTube feed. And I said, you know what? I probably should let them keep showing me these clips because it keeps giving us material to do videos on. People think that I wake up every day scouring the internet for LeBron James stuff, just making up stories or making up scenarios and situations. That's so far from the reality, guys. A lot of times you wake up in the morning, you guys do the same thing. You wake up and you hear something stupid that LeBron James said, or you see a clip of LeBron James, doing something stupid, or like I said, man, saying something ridiculous, playing a certain way out in the court, doing whatever he does. So it's material that we get that we're not just creating.
And that's part of why I have a problem with the he's so scrutinized thing. I'm like, well, could you shut up? Like, if being scrutinized is a problem, could you shut up? Can you stop saying dumb shit for a little bit? Like hour? I mean, I'm talking about a week. Could you shut up for an hour? Because he's got so many different platforms, like one way or another. It's Instagram, it's YouTube, it's Twitter, it's his podcasts. I don't. Is the shop coming back? Uh, my goddamn screen, dude. What is happening here? Anyways, so we're getting to him talking about the ring culture, and boy, this is an easy one to pick apart. I know a lot of people are talking about it. I chose The Odd Couple because usually I'm going to at least kind of like what Rob Parker has to say. And then Kelvin Washington, I don't know if Kelvin Washington believes what he's saying or if it's just his role to play the opposite side, like represent the new school, or I don't know. I don't even know how to categorize it because I don't want to shit on young people across the board when I say new school, but he's representing something that isn't good.
Yeah, I don't really know that guy that well. I believe that he's newer, replacing Chris Broussard, I guess, on that show. And I guess, like you said, he has to be the odd man, or it's called the odd couple. He's got, but I don't really subscribe to this belief that if you have a show like me and you, for example, if we had a show that we did regularly, maybe every day or maybe a couple of times a week, I don't understand when people say that, oh, you have two guys, that have the same point of view that always agree, or more often they agree on everything. And that could be a problem somehow. I don't understand this. If we agree on more often than not, I don't see a problem with that, especially, like I said, if I have to lie and create some kind of false narrative just to disagree with you. It doesn't make any sense. And that's why I see a lot on these shows. It's almost like they just have to create and follow this false narrative just so they can have an opposing opinion from the person across from them. Instead of just being like, you know what, we have to educate the people out here and actually tell them the facts and give them some context and perspective. Because I've always told the people out there, everybody out listening, man, we're giving you the facts. You should want the info. And you can form your own opinion off the truth, off reality. Whatever we tell you guys, whatever I'm giving you guys out here, it doesn't mean that you're going to have the same opinion as me or the same belief as me. Maybe you see the facts and the things a little bit different than I see them. But I'm trying to give you the facts so you can form your own valid opinion. What you get from a Nick Wright, a Colin Cowherd, a Kendrick Perkins, some of these guys, Shannon Sharp, some of these guys out here, you're not getting opinions. I mean, you're getting opinions, you're not getting the facts. So how can you have an informed opinion when they're just giving you narratives and lies? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, man, there's a lot to say there. Even if we agree, I'm sure that there are minor details that we might argue about. If we can't find anything to argue about, you could have a caller call in and provide a counter opinion. But let's say that someone were to criticize that we agree too much. Well, what's mainstream media doing? The LeBron Glazers. I mean, they get a circle of people together and just like, I mean, when Chris Broussard was the toughest pushback that Nick Wright had. Yeah. But I got bad news for you, Robin. When we start our regular show, you are going to have to play the LeBron crowd. You're going to have to defend LeBron. That's your role.
I don't know how to do it. I told you I couldn't do it. I'm so baffled how people could support LeBron James the way they do. Like I said, it just speaks to me and you not holding yourself to the same standards that I value in my life, that I would value from someone that I'm going to support or follow.
That could actually be the entertainment part of it, trying to come up with the stupid, absurd shit that LeBron apologists would come up with before they do. Just come up with the most insane thing you can think of, and you'll basically beat them to what they will actually end up saying.
I mean, listen, I told people, and I've said several times, LeBron James is all-time great basketball player. This is not about LeBron James. I've never said, oh, LeBron James is not even the top 1,000. The only thing that I've said maybe that can maybe be misconstrued or taken a certain way is I've said that LeBron James is becoming unrankable with the way that he has carried himself. That's what I believe. He's becoming unrankable, where I can't have an honest discussion or a debate or, compare resumes with any of these other all-time great players and feel good about it inside. Like, yeah, I'm going to put LeBron James above this dude, and this dude. I'm going to have him number 12 all time. I don't even know if I can say that, like I said, and feel good inside about myself, because I've tried to sit down, watch LeBron James play basketball over the last, years now, We've listened. I've tried to listen to LeBron James and just really listen to what he's trying to say, how he's saying it, maybe what he really means. And, and there's no way that you can like cut through the nonsense. There's just no way for me.
I'm surprised that you've been able to hear me. Can you still hear me?
I hear you, AOH.
All right. I think you were closer when you said something along the lines of LeBron being a top 1,000. Yeah. That's a good way to move into the ring culture thing. I think Rob Parker or Kelvin Washington brought up Charles Barkley, someone who was great, who didn't have rings, or no, it was LeBron who said it.
Yep.
And the first thing I said, LeBron, Barkley's way better than you are. I'm sorry. I have Barkley above LeBron by a long shot, personally.
Interesting, AOH. See, this is what I'm talking about. What you just said right there. I mentioned this in the video earlier. LeBron James brought up several athletes, and we're going to get into this topic, and the different things that he said. And he brought up, like you said, Charles Barkley, Allen Iverson, and Steve Nash. He brought those three players up. Obviously, Steve Nash raised his hand when they were talking about this, and they laughed and had a laugh and said, yes, Steve Nash. But what LeBron James said doesn't make sense. He said, oh, you're telling me those are not great players? Charles Barkley, Allen Iverson, Steve Nash, these aren't great players? And no one's ever said those are not great players. I've never heard anyone say that Charles Barkley wasn't a great player. Never heard anyone say Allen Iverson wasn't a great player, or Steve Nash. Those guys are considered great players.
Yeah, no one ever said Dan Marino wasn't an amazing quarterback. He has all these fake arguments.
Right. It didn't make any sense what he was talking about. And once again, like I talked about in my video, the angle that I went with was that LeBron James does not seem to understand the dynamic of sports. He doesn't seem to understand football. He doesn't seem to understand baseball. And I know LeBron James played football in high school, and he was really good, man. He was great. I get all of that. But just because you're great at a sport doesn't mean that you understand the sport or know the history of that sport. And we've seen this many times play out. We see a lot of ex-NBA players that were good, man. But when you hear these guys speak, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Gilbert Arenas had some good years in the NBA, but you listen to dude speak, sounds like a complete fool. So when we think about those kinds of things, and LeBron James is bringing these guys up, like I said, the impact of a superstar player on a basketball court is much more superior than the impact of a single football player, even if that football player is Dan Marino. And like I said, LeBron James said, oh, are you trying to tell me that Dan Marino's not a great slinger of the football? Once again, LeBron James, I ask you, whoever said that Dan Marino is not one of the great slingers of the football? Dan Marino is always regarded as one of the great throwers of the football. Just because Dan Marino's not in the conversation of the greatest quarterback of all time, it's not necessarily because he had no rings, or it is because he had no rings. If you want to be argued for the greatest player of a sport, then yes, the championships have to come into play. If you think about an all-time top 10 NBA list, let's say, for example, think about the guys that you would put in your top 10 all-time NBA list. Most of those guys, if not every one of those players, has at least one championship. So rings do matter when you're talking about the great players, or to be considered the greatest.
And by the way, people do still include Dan Marino in the conversation. Some people do. Like, maybe you could argue he doesn't belong there, but some people put him in there despite not having the rings. Anyway, point isn't to talk about Dan Marino all morning, but I think
but that's a valid point, AOH, because like you just said, Dan Marino is still. There's many people that have Dan Marino top 5 all time, and why they have Dan Marino top 5 all time? Because the man could do his thing. And once again, football is more of a team sport than basketball will ever be. So he brings up Charles Barkley, Allen Iverson, and Steve Nash. There's no one in hell. There's nobody out there arguing any of those three players as the greatest players of all time. I don't even believe that anyone will argue those guys are top 10 players all time. And I love Charles Barkley, man. He's one of my favorite players. But there's no one arguing him for the greatest player of all time.
Yeah. And let's read a couple of more super chats. Hey, thanks everybody for the super chats coming in. Just making sure everyone can hear me okay. I'm having some technical difficulties again. Eric C says LeBron has to keep talking about himself because he is losing traction on his manipulation of NBA history and his personal narrative. Yeah. And I'm hoping more and more fanboys will wake up. You fanboys scare me more than LeBron. I don't understand the brain, the way that your brains work. Just
Yeah, shout out to Eric C. He's on the money because people are starting to open up their eyes. That's the reality here. People are starting to actually listen to people like Angry Old Hoops. They're listening to guys like Uncut Hoops. They're listening to Uncommon Sense. They're listening to these other platforms, Dreamers Pro, Too Raw for TV. They're listening to other people out here. Social media, right? YouTube itself is a place where people go to consume content now. So our voices, what we're saying, is starting to resonate in such a manner that LeBron James himself, oh yeah, I heard that I got no bag. How did you hear that, LeBron James? Because you know that the voices are out there. I mean, think about LeBron James after the 2020 finals asking for his damn respect. I want my damn respect. Who was he asking for respect from? Think about that. If LeBron James were the greatest player of all time, he calls himself the GOAT of the time. What the hell is he talking about? What are you? Who are you asking respect from? I asked the LeBron James fans out there, who do you think he's asking for respect from? The answer is he's asking from us,
yeah,
all of us, the true, real basketball fans that he knows don't respect him. So when his fans say, oh, he don't care about what you guys have to say, he makes billions of dollars, he don't care what you have to say, he's respected by millions of people. Okay, if that's the reality, then how can that same person go to a Super Bowl and get booed? That doesn't add up. That shows the reality. He's not that well respected as you guys are trying to market and say.
not only is it embarrassing to demand respect, but that was certainly not the chip to demand it afterward. Like he didn't.
Yep.
Yeah, he didn't. Anyway, I don't want to go down that hole of the fucking bubble in a cup. Bubble in a cup.
Bubble in a cup. Shout out to Lamar Wallace. Bubble in a cup.
Robin wanted me to play that again this morning. I said I don't want to overuse it. I don't want to. Maybe I don't know. I think he wants me to, but I don't. I also don't want to overplay my card. Austin Casey says thank you. Just wanted to say thank you, guys. Thank you for being here, Austin. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Austin. Shout out, man. Thank you.
Count Kilroy Graff says LeBron doesn't get enough help. His teammates are trash. My brother in Christ, he picked the roster.
Exactly. Count Kilroy, right on the money. That's the whole time. We're like, what are you talking about, dude?
How many people have the luxury of picking their rosters? You know. Anyways. And let's see here. We also have Jolly Joshams again. Thanks, man. LeBron lying about how rings don't matter right in the middle of the finals is so goofy. Yeah, God, I didn't even put that one together. Yeah, right in the middle of the finals. Why do we
Jolly
even
Joshams come with the heat once again. Thank you very much. That's a good point.
why do we even have playoffs? I mean, why don't we just have guys go out there and have fun and celebrate the fact that they're enjoying the game? I mean, this is basically the direction we're heading. You know, LeBron James, the participation trophy, poster child. But I tell you what, when Kyrie got him that ring in Cleveland, I didn't hear him praising his teammates. I heard him use that as an excuse to talk about himself. And even in reflection, sitting on his own show, he sits there and he says, and in that moment, I thought, that one right there made you the greatest of all time. How you disgusting piece of shit.
Yep.
How are you self-absorbed right then and there while still pretending to tell us that this was about Cleveland?
Yep.
Self-absorbed piece of trash.
Yeah, you're right. I want everyone out there, and if you ever get any time, especially the LeBron James fans, I'm talking to you guys out there, and anyone else, man, if you get some time, I want you guys to go watch Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 1991, when the Chicago Bulls finally beat the Detroit Pistons, guys, right? I want you to watch, you don't have to watch the whole game, actually. Just watch the end of it. Watch the end of the game. What happens at the end of the game? They interview Michael Jordan on the court. They just beat the Detroit Pistons. They just walked off the court on the Bulls. They interviewed Michael Jordan on the court, still sweating, towel around the neck. They asked Michael Jordan, man, you guys just got past the Pistons. You finally did it. You're going to your first NBA Finals. And what does Michael Jordan say? The first two words out of his mouth is Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen, guys. He brings up Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen. The first two damn review on the court, Game 4, Eastern Conference Finals, 1991. Michael Jordan could have been like, yeah, man, I got it through. I finally did it. I can't believe it. This and that. LeBron James would have said, yo, I'm the greatest, man. I can't believe I just averaged a triple-double. I just did this. I'm carrying bums out here. Michael Jordan shouted his teammates out. I said the same thing in an earlier video. I said, the reason why LeBron James fans don't respect his teammates is because LeBron James has shown them no respect. So they, in turn, don't respect his teammates. The reason why we always appreciate the role players that Michael Jordan played with, and we know who those guys are, because Michael Jordan always showed respect to them by bigging them up and saluting them whenever it was necessary, whenever he had the opportunity. And in that moment, to me, man, that's class personified. That's called honor.
How's this sound?
I hear you.
First thing out of his mouth at the Hall of Fame speech, crediting others, crediting Scotty. As a matter of fact, ungrateful piece of shit.
Yup.
Yeah, I'll read a couple more super chats and then we'll listen to what Rob Parker says. But maybe more importantly, we'll listen to what Kelvin Washington says. It's because the LeBron apologists and their desperation to defend LeBron actually give us opportunities to educate. LeBron, Jolly Joshams. Oh, I read that one. Praise the Dawn is back with another super chat. Thank you. Since LeBron fans love stats so much, Wilt and Oscar are the GOATs. Also, Harden, Luka, and Westbrook are better since all they care about are stats. Using LeBron arguments against him.
Yeah, for real. Shout out to Praise the Don.
Animaniac, thank you for being a member for 8 months.
Animaniac, yes.
And now it says you've been a member for 13 months. Okay. Well, cool. I guess both of those can be true at the same time. Shout out to the dynamic duo, he says. LaFraud is grasping at straws to protect his legacy. And at this point, I really do think he's hurting himself.
No, I think Animaniac is a member of both of our channels. I think that's what that is. Shout out to Animaniac, man, for being a true supporter. It's truly humbling, guys. Thank you very much.
Got it. That makes sense. Justin Messenger says, Kobe said we don't hang fake banners up. Yep. That's
right, exactly. These are the things that we're talking about. LeBron James lowering the standard. The standard has gone downhill for LeBron James. The only way LeBron James looks, he's, think about it. They had to lower the bar so low to make LeBron James appear as if he's close to Michael Jordan when we know that he did not even pass guys like Larry Bird. Come on, man.
MacMans, who is a member for 13 months, says, true professional Michael Jordan always gave props to his teammates. He doesn't give LeBron fanboys very much to work with, does he? It's amazing they try and act like Michael was a dick, or they try to knock Michael down because he had Scottie Pippen. I'm like, well, Michael acknowledged that he had Scottie Pippen. Can we move on? Yep. LeBron's had far more people and doesn't acknowledge any of them.
I mean, does LeBron, have you ever heard LeBron James say, hey, when you guys talk about that 3-1 comeback, you should mention Kyrie Irving in that shot? You know, we've heard Michael Jordan on several occasions say, when you mention my name, mention Scottie Pippen. Now, when you mention the championships, he said, when you mention my name, you should mention that dude's name. Michael Jordan himself said that. LeBron James would never say nothing on that level. We've never heard another superstar player say, when you mention Magic Johnson, mention Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. When you mention Larry Bird, mention, Kevin McHale. You don't hear people saying this. Michael Jordan gave Scottie Pippen his credit. That's why we don't know what the hell Scottie Pippen's talking about, man. This dude bigged you up way more than he needed. The man put his arm around him and said, you're my MVP, dog. I'm going to keep the trophy. You can have the car. And he said, it's hard for me to accept this MVP, the Finals MVP in 97 by myself, because he's done so much for me and helped me so much. You bring me any video. You bring me a video of LeBron James doing that, putting his arm around someone, calling them the MVP. You show the video. Michael Jordan did this for Pippen, and Scottie Pippen completely forgets this stuff.
Yep. And I've gone back and watched a lot of Pippen stuff and realized how many times he left Michael high and dry.
You know what's funny, LH? And I
Yeah.
know I'm talking a lot, man. But to me, when you think about Michael Jordan's career, and like you said, when you go back and watch some of this stuff, how he interacted, how he carried himself, the things that he said, it's almost as if Michael Jordan knew what technology was going to be like 20, 30 years down the road. Like he knew we were going to have this kind of access, this kind of ability to look back on this stuff. That's the thing for a lot of these people. They're not on the right place of history. And when history writes and keeps writing itself, these people are going to be written out of the books because the facts are going to remain there. Michael Jordan, it's like I said, the more you go back and listen to him, all you hear is him speaking up about Scottie Pippen and about these guys. It's laughable for them to come out and do a road show and do a whole thing against Michael Jordan, how rude he was and how mean he was, when this dude did everything possible to help these guys and lift them. And yes, he may have done about these things kind of harshly, but damn it, come on, man. The results were there.
Well, a different way of saying what you just said is simply behaving with integrity, and acting like you were raised correctly. That tends to work out better in history. That tends to make you look better in history. He didn't have to do it for manipulative purposes.
Exactly.
He didn't have to do it anticipating the media, which, by the way, it's really interesting that LeBron James can live in the era of social media, even delete his own tweets and still not wake up to the fact that maybe he should shut the F up. And, people talk like that goblin on Breakfast Basketball, acting like Michael Jordan isn't currently alive in the age of social media. I mean, Scottie Pippen played with Jordan. He's using social media to attack Jordan. So if Jordan was that insecure, he could be just firing right back on social media. No, Michael empowers himself through his silence. The power is in the silence, and only someone who is truly secure in themselves and understands that they did accomplish what they accomplished and they did leave it out on the floor can be comfortable in their silence and praise other people.
That's right, man. You want to be able to look yourself in the mirror. That's what you want to be able to do. And LeBron James can't look himself in the mirror, man, and be proud of what he got looking back at him. Because like you said, this dude has been insecure to the highest degree for no reason. And what you just mentioned, LeBron James should do. Michael Jordan's silence, right? LeBron James, be silent. Get off the damn podcast, dude. Fade off in the summer. Do your thing, get your knee healthy, and come back next year. We shouldn't hear from you.
I'll read it. Animaniac89 says, in Jordan's Hall of Fame speech, he began by praising Scottie, which, of course, we just covered. On his special day, he began by giving Scottie credit. I mean, that's a pretty big thing to do on, your day. Talk about someone else. And how did Scottie repay that? Man. Anyways, let's get to The Odd Couple. Let's play a little bit of that.
Play it up.
By this time next week, a new champion. We will have a new member of the Rings Club in basketball history. Mm-hmm. Rings culture, of course, has been pervasive throughout sports media for about a decade at least, maybe even longer than that. And LeBron James, in the latest episode of the Mind the Game podcast with Steve Nash, was taking some listener questions on the show. One of them was, hey, LeBron, you got 4 rings. Why don't you tell us your thoughts on Rings culture? Take a listen.
Funny, I don't know. I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport and why it's the A-all, B-all of everything. You sit here and you tell me, Allen Iverson and Charles Barkley. And
I can't fucking take his voice, man.
That's what I'm saying. You can't.
He sounds so fucking dumb.
So dumb, man.
And we already covered this. He lists these names of people, but he starts immediately with an argument that doesn't exist. And people in the chat, LeBron people, will do the same thing. They'll pretend like you said something that you didn't say just because they desperately want to say what's already on their mind. Like, right. Well, you're not even arguing against us. You're just coming here for your own therapy session, which is exactly what LeBron is doing on the Mind Game podcast. Oh God, it's just embarrassing. And no one called it the end all be all. This is why the debates get so heated. A lot of people weigh the importance of rings differently. Yeah. I don't know why it's so pervasive. By the way, calling it pervasive makes it sound negative. Listen, LeBron, your media team were the ones, and this goes against Kelvin Washington because he really gets on the bandwagon of, oh, it's the media's fault for always talking about how important rings are. It was LeBron's media that almost every single year were like, can this lineup get LeBron another ring? Will this year be the year for LeBron to get another ring? Can LeBron carry this team to another ring, despite the super team roster attempts that happen every single season? Oh, can the Lakers front office get their shit together and put together something for LeBron to get another ring? And it's like, hey, LeBron, how about if you just go and get a ring yourself for once? You know, I like if I look back at Kobe, the Shaq years, having Shaq on your team was unfair. Kobe did a lot of credit for himself doing the non-Shaq years. I don't think that those teams were the scrubs that Scap Attack will call them, but boy, not those Shaq years though. Shit, that shit was unfair. But LeBron's never done that. I can make an argument that throughout his entire career, LeBron hasn't been the best player on his own teams. People are misremembering Dwayne Wade. Go back. I'm watching 2012. 2011 is an obvious one. Dwayne Wade was clearly the better player in 2011, but the media makes you think that LeBron got over the hump and became a different person in 2012. I'm rewatching it. No, Dwayne Wade was still clearly the man watching those games. Fast forward to Kyrie. Fast forward to Anthony Davis. Now, even Anthony Davis wasn't good enough. We've got Luka. Luka's not a star, not a superstar. He's a mega star. And hey, let's just give LeBron this guy. And it's still what I said this last time. I've never seen someone on Luka's level get demolished so fast. It's just amazing. I'm sorry, I blabbered for a while
that's
there.
The point, though, and wait, that's a very great point that you're bringing up, though, because it's important that we highlight that. What you get with LeBron James' teammates, like you said, they're remembered for being less than. And Michael Jordan's teammates, because he's so great, they're remembered for being greater than. So, Scottie Pippen, the perfect example. They remember him for now all of a sudden being the greatest all-around player of the 90s. That's insane. All of a sudden, that's how he's remembered now. And why is that? Because this is how they try to take away from Michael Jordan, when in fact, all they're doing is highlighting the greatness of Michael Jordan. If you remember Scottie Pippen that way, it's because Michael Jordan made you feel that way. The way you guys feel about Dwayne Wade, or these people feel or talk about Dwayne Wade and the Kyrie Irvings, the Anthony Davises, and now we've seen, like you said, about Luka Doncic, they feel that way because LeBron James made them feel that way. Because LeBron James did not sacrifice for his teammates. He did not make them better. He did not make them look better. Chris Bosh, then all of a sudden now, I did a poll a couple of days ago, maybe a week or so ago, and I put Horace Grant versus Chris Bosh, and I said, who's a greater player? And you actually had people voting for Horace Grant. That's insane for anyone to think that Horace Grant could possibly lead a team. Chris Bosh was the leader of a team for several years, leading a team to the playoffs, averaging 22 and 10 rebounds per game. This is for several seasons. I'm not a huge Chris Bosh fan, but damn it, you don't remember him for being that good because he's LeBron James' teammate. If Chris Bosh was Michael Jordan's teammate, you would remember him for being so much great. Chris Bosh, a Hall of Famer. Horace Grant's nowhere near a Hall of Famer. But somehow, some way, people actually thought that Horace Grant could somehow be better than Chris Bosh. It's insane. The way that people talk about Reggie Miller and some of the other players versus Scottie Pippen, and I say all the time, to me, Scottie Pippen was never a top 10 player in the 90s because of the great depth and talent of the 90s at any given year. And when people try to make these arguments, they'll say he was greater than Reggie Miller, or he was better than Clyde Drexler, or he was better than Gary Payton, or he was better than John Stockton. It's insane. People think he was better than Patrick Ewing. How the hell was he better than Patrick Ewing?
It's that toxic ring culture that LeBron's talking about. They just gave Horace Grant the nod because of those rings. I guess LeBron has a point. Of course, I'm kidding. I'm sure that Horace Grant having the rings with Michael Jordan does play a part in it. But the most important part of what you said is Chris Bosh was already a franchise player before LeBron James. He wasn't a great player. He wasn't a good rebounder. He was the man for the franchise, people. So Robin has a great point. I mean, I think a lot of us nostalgically would think highly of Horace Grant because he was part of those Bulls runs. But the bottom line is that Chris Bosh was a far more dynamic player. And again, Horace Grant, thanks to him going on that no bowl tour, I started looking at him and I'm like, damn, Horace Grant, if Michael Jordan wasn't drawing 4 people and then dishing you the ball right under the rim, I'm not so sure you'd have the legacy that you had. I'm not calling him bad, but my God, did he benefit from Michael Jordan?
Exactly. Horace Grant was a good player. He's a really good. Listen, Horace Grant was a good player. I'm not knocking him. But what I'm saying is that how could you compare a role guy to a player that led his team for several years to the playoffs? Like I said, he was a really good player, Horace Grant, but he was nowhere on the level of. Like, think about it. Let's put Horace Grant as the #1 option on your team. What do you think your team's doing? You think Horace Grant's leading you to the playoffs? Come on, guys. Stop it right now. You remember these guys for being greater than they were. You hear people talk about Steve Kerr now as if he was Steph Curry of the 90s. Steve Kerr was not that dude. They'll talk about Steve Kerr as if he was better than Reggie Miller or something like that shooting the ball. Just because Steve Kerr has the highest three-point percentage, why do you guys think that is? If you knew about Steve Kerr, if you watched the game in the 90s, you would know what Steve Kerr was about. A spot-up shooter. That's what Steve Kerr was doing. He'll come off a screen maybe, but not often like Reggie Miller. He ain't knocking down shots off the dribble. Steve Kerr standing in the corner wide open at the time, man. Knocking down spot-up threes. He's a knockdown shooter, but he ain't on those guys' levels. It's a different dynamic.
Yeah, I think Steve Kerr, I looked this up back when they were over glorifying him. I think he contributed something astonishingly low, like 3.5 points a game overall. I mean, it was
Steve
really.
Kerr shot 25% from the three-point line in all 3 NBA finals combined. He played with the Chicago Bulls. Ron Harper, who's not known for being a three-point shooter, in the 3 NBA finals that they played together, once again, shot 27% from the three-point line. That's what Steve Kerr did from three-point line. Steve Kerr, man, great shooter, but stop pumping him up to another realm once again because he's Michael Jordan's teammate.
Let's catch up on some super chats. Greg Goobs. I'm just hoping MJ doesn't hold back next season. LeBron is going to be running to retirement if the real GOAT opens his mouth about today's game. Thing is, Michael has demonstrated over a long period of time the power of silence and behaving decently. I think it would be a weird flip for him to suddenly get on TV and do the opposite and start running his mouth and clowning people. I don't know. That would be a weird change. And I don't need to see that. Even if he's correct, I just don't need to see it. I just think the power of his silence stands on its by itself. But I don't know. Like putting the burden on Michael Jordan to get commentators to be honest again. Jeez, that's Michael Jordan's problem. I wouldn't want that burden. I don't know. Shall I move on to the next chat? Okay. Brian Law says LeBron can't even walk onto a basketball court without dyeing his beard. It's so true. You can tell from one day to the next how good of a job that they did. So he's doing it all the time. Are we really surprised that he's insecure about his fraudulent legacy? Yeah, I mean, I've made jokes about how many people he could have fed with the hair plug science project that he's got going on, because once again, that's him being concerned about his looks. That ridiculous beard hiding whatever terrible things happening down here. Once again,
I mean, there's nobody there. There's no one around to, like I said. Like, where's your support people at? Your support group, LeBron James? I just, because everything is contradictory to what his fan base believes. All right. So when his fan base talks about us and all these things, and his fan base talks about LeBron James, it doesn't add up to the way that he acts and the things that he says. It's just very weird to me.
Can you imagine a drinking game that was based on the number of times that Steve Nash said, mm-hmm?
I'm telling you, man, that's true.
You'd be unconscious in 5 minutes.
I'm telling you, I'm telling you, there's so many awkward moments on the podcast, when you watch, I mean, even in a 6-7 minute clip, there's many awkward pauses, like you said. I'm telling you, I can't get that moment out of my head when Steve Nash said, not even creatine, and LeBron James was like, no, just natural vitamins, and every once in a while I do my smoothie. The look that Steve Nash had on his face when he said, not even creatine, you don't do nothing, and it was almost like he was confused. He didn't even know what to say to that because even he knows it's asinine for LeBron James to sit up there so talk about natural vitamins. Come on, man.
He's gotten his shit together since then. Steve Nash has realized, oh, don't say anything at all except for that's amazing. Jolly Joshams, Steve Nash, you almost messed up your job there. Jolly Josham says there was a reason just for naturally being stunned.
Not even creatine.
and occasionally my smoothies. Well, that's convenient. We don't know what's in your smoothies.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? Like he could, I mean, is Balco in your smoothies?
Does LeBron James take vitamins? Absolutely. I would not doubt that LeBron James takes a Flintstone vitamin or a Centrum Silver or something like that. No doubt about it. But stop it, LeBron.
Centrum Silver. Hey, you know how quickly it was thrown under the rug? Him on the bench going. You remember that? It was right during the second big wave of the Balco accusations, and LeBron sits down on the bench in the game and goes,
"Oh, I did. I saw it. I did see that. So people were talking about that.
Nothing ever came of that. Maybe nothing should, but geez, why
that
did
was
he have
Centrum Silvers? Yeah, he's thinking, listen, man, like I said, if LeBron James is stupid enough to do something nefarious like that on the sideline of an NBA basketball game, then like I said, where's your support staff at, man? Where's your people, your entourage, to slap you in the back of your head? They say, dude, you got billion cameras all over the place. What the hell are you doing? But like I said, for LeBron James to actually say natural vitamins, like, see, this is the problem we talked about. He seems to be going through all the things that he's hearing in social media times. So when his fans say, oh, LeBron James don't care what you guys are saying, he obviously does. It bothers him. See, when Michael Jordan is silent, why is Michael Jordan silent? Because everything that's said about him doesn't add up. He doesn't have to defend himself against lies and narratives. Everything speaks for itself.
Robin, quote from LeBron James, I see it all the time on social media. LeBron has no bag. How do you see it? How do you see that all the time, Mr. I don't care? How's that possible?
He knows. He hears us. And that's the problem.
Jesus, I care less about what people think than LeBron does.
I mean, I said, Michael Jordan would have been like, yo, this dude Sports and Fitness Rants got something to say. Yo, who's this clown? He would have put that stuff in the locker room. He'd have been laughing at me. He'd have been like, who's his team? He's a New York fan? He'd have found everything about and all the information out. He'd have had his people search me up. They would have found out where I worked. He would have found out what teams I root for. This man would have made a point to destroy every team that I loved or even thought about rooting for. He would have made a personal thing against me, man. And then he would have sent me a pair of sneakers and laughed. Michael Jordan ain't gonna be upset and worried about, oh my God, Sports and Fitness Rant said that I ain't got no bag, man. Because Michael Jordan would know the facts.
Yeah, you go on the court and punish people. Don't go on a therapy podcast. Anyway, Jolly Joshams with another super chat. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. This is great because I'm not going to whine for too long, but my God, is it ever needed? YouTube is being mean. There was a reason they called the previous men's Olympics team the Avengers. LeBron literally needs superheroes on his team to win anything. Man, this is another topic that I didn't even have time to get to. The coming out that, they didn't really want LeBron on the team. But I don't know how anyone can be surprised. I did do a multi-part series reacting to the Redeem Team documentary, and I don't know anything on there that really makes LeBron James look good other than them trying to make it look like he was an important part of the team. Anyway, we can circle back to that later if we need to, but we've barely even played the clips that I want to play today. The lowly one, you hit the nail on the head with the Monte Cristo comparison when it comes to LeBron James. He needs to quit, but he won't. Salute. Thank you, lowly one.
Yeah, see, the lowly one knows the kind of Monte Cristo. I did that video and I made that comparison. And I hit you guys with the quote, the famous quote at the end of the movie, one of my favorite quotes in the movie, man. Like I told you, it really shows you how much hate was in Count Mondego. It just hated him. And what did he say at the end of that movie? He couldn't just ride off into the sunset. Remember, he went to ride off and he had to stop. He turned around, he came back, and he called him out. He said, he called him out. You guys remember that scene? He called him out for the one-on-one duel to the death. And he said, you know, I couldn't live in a world where you had everything and I have nothing. The man literally said that to him. That's LeBron James. He can't live in this world where Michael Jordan, to him, has everything and he has nothing. Where Michael Jordan is seen and recognized as the greatest player of all time. LeBron James can't live in that world. He refuses to live in that reality, man. Once again, shout out to my man, the lonely one.
Speaking of good quotes, since I rewatched Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame speech, he had a nice quote that he ended it with. He said, fear, like limits, are often just illusions. He ended it with something inspirational.
Yep.
That's a good one. Anyway, let's do some more of this.
Steve Nash, wasn't unbelievable.
Of course, he has to cuss.
Yep.
Like, oh, they can't be talked about or discussed with these guys just because this guy won 1 ring or won 2 rings or won, like, it's just weird to me. It's like saying Peyton Manning can't be in the same room with Brady. Or
really, is that what it's like? You fucking idiot.
Mahomes, because he only has 1 ring. They don't never discuss that in these.
They don't never discuss that. I swear to God, his intentional misuse of the English language gets more intense all the time. If that's the way you naturally talk, so be it. But he's just going out of the way. Oh.
Or telling me that Dan Marino is not the greatest slinger of all time. Or he can't be in the room with those guys because he didn't win a championship. They don't discuss those things.
Anyone think LeBron James has watched a single Dan Marino game?
Nope.
I don't know why they're not putting you on the screen when I do this.
Once again, if he had enough rings to be considered the greatest, it would be okay. This is a typical LeBron. He doesn't feel like he's going to get there, and that's going to be held against him. So now he's going to downplay the ring. If it,
I mean, you could stop there because LeBron's insecurity and his self-glorification makes you have to side with Rob Parker right there. If LeBron had plenty of rings, he would absolutely change his tune. Yep. He would absolutely say, obviously rings are important. And maybe I'll skip ahead. We don't have to play.
Well, hold on. First of all, let's set the record straight on LeBron James, first of all. And let's educate everyone out here. Because LeBron James, like you said, is an idiot. Doesn't know what he's talking about. He didn't watch these guys. You bring up Peyton Manning, and he says Peyton Manning only has 1 ring. Peyton Manning has 2 Super Bowl rings, man.
Right,
2.
right.
LeBron James, what are you talking about, dude? Listen, you're going to come on a podcast. You're going to come out here and mention someone like Peyton Manning, an all-time great, a guy who actually has respect, a guy who carried himself with class, with honor, who went out there and did, who was tough, who was gritty, who earned it. You're going to throw Peyton Manning's name out there, and you're going to say he has 1 Super Bowl ring? You're going to shortchange my man like that? The dude's got 2 Super Bowls. Get that straight, number 1. Number 2, and more importantly, the problem for LeBron James is that people don't respect his rings. If LeBron James had 4 legit rings, that would be something to behold. That would be something that we could talk about. That would be something that you can argue in a conversation, because the only way that LeBron James would be respected having 4 legit rings is that he would have to go about it the right way. He would have had to form those super teams and do all the free agents and the trades and the nonsense, do all the losing. These are the problems. No one respects those rings.
How many legit rings do you credit him with?
I don't believe he has any rings without a super team.
Is that a 0?
Like I said, I don't respect his championships. That's why it's hard to argue him. I believe all his rings on a super team that he put together.
Short and sweet from earlier when we were laughing about his quote, creatine is natural, LeBron. Anyway,
Exactly. Our bodies make creatine. We get creatine from certain foods. LeBron James doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
he doesn't
If you ever
research a
watch
single
LeBron James
thing.
workout videos, it's a bunch of nonsense.
About that, LeBron, and if Steve Nash had any kind of
stop expecting him to.
okay, no, if he had anything,
Even Kelvin Washington doesn't expect anything from Steve Nash at this
then I
point.
would have said, LeBron, why did you leave Cleveland and go to Miami, chasing rings?
Cleveland,
You're the one who.
So we can stop here again because the kid from Akron who loves Cleveland. If rings don't matter, indeed, stay there. Stay there. And something that I'll add that these guys didn't say is the media at the time defended LeBron James by saying there's nothing wrong with going to Miami and having Dwayne Wade show you how to get it done and to win rings that way. Nobody didn't think he was going there to get rings. Nobody didn't think he was going there to get rings. And as if there was any room for question, LeBron James gets on stage and tells everyone how many rings they're going to win together. Fucking idiot.
For real, man. I mean, listen, man, Rob Parker's always made me laugh. Some of the things that he says are kind of raw. Sometimes he says things that like he probably shouldn't say, or I guess he's not allowed to say on air. But I always appreciated his candor to that degree. And he's always been like this as it pertains to LeBron James. He's kind of kept it real, I guess, so to speak, in some of these scenarios. And when you talk about, when he mentions LeBron James, leaving and LeBron, see, there's the thing. Back in the day when we think about, or if I think about when I watch basketball, we used to talk about, they used to call it ring chasing, right? But, oh, you're ring chasing. But they used to talk about that in a way like when players were like at the end of their careers. They're like, oh man, this guy never won a ring. He's in his 15th season. He's trying to get on the team and just play a role. He's just trying to play a role. Whether it's the 7th, 8th, 9th man on the bench, maybe whatever it is. He's just trying to play a role in the team. Not trying to be the star guy, the second, third option. You're trying to find a role. Help a team get over the hump. They need a little bit something. Maybe you can add some veteran experience, some savvy, some know-how. Help a team. That was respected back in the day. And that's what players would do. So, yes, we've seen iterations of teams like the Houston Rockets with Charles Barkley and Hakeem Olajuwon and Scottie Pippen when these guys are like 37 years old and they're in their 17th seasons and they got all these injuries they piled up and they don't really have anything left, but just a little bit something they're trying to fight and compete to get that championship. That's a lot different. It pales in comparison to what LeBron James decided to do. So if we're talking about the ring chasing culture, it's not just about guys trying to get a ring, because that's what they're supposed to be trying to do. They're trying to be competing, though. That's the thing. LeBron James didn't want to compete for that ring because he could have went through those years, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. He could have went through those years in Cleveland. I mean, to go back a second time makes no sense. It exposes you to the ring chasing.
Especially since, again, LeBron just can't keep his mouth shut. Was that a year ago or was it already 2 years ago when he went on and said, I didn't need Miami. I'm chosen. My career was going to be my career. Then you should have definitely stayed. Renee is doing her best Michael Jordan, power without words, with the $4.99 super chat and no comment. Thank you, Renee. Appreciate it.
Shout out to Renee, who's always there supporting us. Thank you very much. Like I said, the true supporters. I mean, like I said, that's what we value. You guys are always coming back, man. Thank you.
You're the one who ran away. You're the one who put together a super team so that you can win rings. You were the one who were afraid not to win a championship. As great as you were as a player.
Not 2, not 3.
That's right.
Not 4,
now he's saying,
not
listen
5,
to this.
Not 6.
Is he talking
not
about
7.
being a great
And when I
player?
say that,
He's
I
talking
really
about
believe it.
winning rings because that's what he wanted to win. Such a phony. I'm so tired of hearing this.
Thank you. It's nice to look back at some old stuff because Rob Parker was actually on ESPN back in the day.
Yep.
And him and Skip Bayless got the boot for being too honest, I guess.
Rob Parker, like I said, sometimes he says things that he's not allowed to say. I respect him for like I said, for his candor and for like I said, I mean, look at the energy that he gives you right there. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, that was always Rob Parker, and like I said, he used to be on ESPN back in the day, man. So shout out to him.
But it's 22 years of this nonsense. How can you not be tired of this phony? Of course he's tired of this phony. There's nothing crazy about what Rob Parker's saying. How many years are we going to listen to an insecure fraud lie to us?
On one hand, he's talking about, I don't know why we're talking about rings or whatever. He's the one. Kelvin, that wasn't somebody imitating him. He's the one talking up about 7 rings. He's the one who left Cleveland, his hometown, and went to go chase rings in Miami. He's the one who keeps leaving, who came to L.A. to chase rings because he looked at Michael Jordan. And if you look at Michael Jordan.
I mean, why did he have to bring Anthony Davis to L.A.? Just go to LA and do it, man. Why'd you have to have a whole big plan set up? In fact, actually violate NBA rules in order to get him there. You don't care about rings, but you're willing to violate NBA rules to get an unfair advantage?
Career, and you think it's just about rings? You're mistaken. Michael Jordan was a great player, led the league in scoring 10 times. I could go over and over the all-time leading scorer in the postseason. It was more than just the 6 rings. This whole notion. And if Steve Nash had anything, he could have said, you know, LeBron, Peyton did win 2 championships.
Thank you, Rob Parker.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you, Rob Parker.
Yeah,
They don't even know.
He forgot that Denver one.
Exactly. But my point is, this is total garbage on LeBron's point. What on part? The only reason if LeBron had 8 or 10 rings, you think he would be talking about the number of rings people counting? Of course he would not. Such a phony. I'm so tired of hearing guys make an excuse when it doesn't fit their narrative. He has to be able to talk about longevity and all this other stuff to be able to be considered great.
Let's stop there and talk about consistency, because if LeBron had made a stand about what he really thinks greatness is early in his career and stuck with it, that'd be one thing. LeBron just shifts the story however is necessary. Yeah, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that somewhere early in his career we can find a quote of him saying, "Of course rings matter." I'm guessing we can find a direct contradiction, not just a common sense contradiction.
It's not that you have to win a ring to be great. Okay? You can be a great player. I'll sit here and tell you Charles Barkley was a great player. Steve Nash won 2 MVPs. No one's going to say he wasn't a great player in the NBA. But when you talk about the greatest of all time, I don't know of anybody who's the greatest of anything who didn't win at some point in their life. Dan Marino was a hell of a quarterback. I'm going to sit here and tell you he's the best quarterback ever, and he never won? Come on, man. Nobody. How many times do I have to bring up Marv Levy? He went to 4 straight Super Bowls as a coach.
Not 3.
4. Not one time have I ever heard anybody say Marv Levy's the greatest coach in NFL history. You know why? Because he didn't win. That's why we keep score. That's why we hand out trophies. It does matter. Stop trying to say that winning doesn't matter. It does matter.
And again, LeBron's own media think it matters. And if LeBron was going to come out and say it doesn't matter at this stage in his career, they should have had a meeting years ago and gotten on the same page and not tried to hype up the ring chasing, because every year was about, does this ring catch Michael up or catch LeBron up? In fact, what has Nick Wright said? Nick Wright has gone so far as to say that some of LeBron's rings count twice. his fraudulent rings that don't even count once, Nick Wright's trying to tell us count twice, because it's so important for LeBron to have as many rings as Michael. And now we're going to pretend and go the other direction with this. And just
I heard the same thing from Nick Wright. I mean, that's probably one of the most laughable statements that he's ever made. And it really is, like I said, it just highlights the levels that the LeBron James fans go to just to excuse and create these false narratives around LeBron James. His championships count for 2. That's insane.
especially when they don't count for one. I mean, could we at least actually take one of the greatest championship runs ever? Not according to Nick Wright, but anyway, Justin Messenger kind of on that theme says not one, not two, not three. Wade's face said it all. At least Dwayne Wade had the decency to be embarrassed. You know, he tried to laugh it off, but you know Dwayne Wade was uncomfortable with that shit.
That's right. And to all the people out there that think that Horace Grant is somehow comparable to Chris Bosh, do you think that LeBron James would have felt that confidence sitting there with with Horace Grant's his third option? You think he would have been saying not 7, not 8, with Horace Grant sitting there? No, he would have never done that.
Yeah, I don't think Horace Grant gets that rebound and kicks it out to Ray Allen the way that Chris Bosh did.
And Horace Grant would never have been able to adjust his game the way that Chris Bosh did. You know, I saw someone in the comments say something that I would have taken Horace Grant over Chris Bosh because if he was the number one option on a team, he would have put up the same kind of numbers. That's laughable. Horace Grant never showed you the ability to change and mold his game, never showed you the ability to step out beyond the three-point line and knock down a jump shot. Horace Grant's game was down low, low post defense, hard-nosed rebounding, man, and scoring around the basket within the paint. He had a nice little jumper about 12, 15 feet, but he would have never been able to adapt his game the way Chris Bosh was able to. He didn't have the ball handling or the playmaking skills of Chris Bosh, man. Stop it. You guys don't know what you're talking about. You're not making any sense. The way that Chris Bosh was able to adjust his game that way and help LeBron James win championships is something that Horace Grant wouldn't do. I actually heard reports of Horace Grant and his lack of wanting to learn and develop and adjust and adapt his game. Just being, you know, settled at being a rebounder, around the rim kind of, you know, guy.
I don't think Horace Grant had Bosch's length either, did he? But in any case, yeah, Horace Grant cleaned up messes around the rim or got a nice dish. And he did have a career post Jordan. Obviously, he went to Orlando and then he went to LA, but once again, he was like low down the totem pole. He had the luxury of Penny and Shaq. He had the luxury of Kobe. And was it Kobe and Shaq or was he? Yeah, Jesus. Let's see. Yeah, let's play some more.
Talking about putting somebody ahead of everybody and saying they're the greatest that ever did something. That's all I'm saying.
I actually agree with that last statement. I think when you're talking about the pantheons, right? I gotta start to nitpick LeBron or Kobe. I got to start bringing those things up. But I'm gonna reverse it here. So let me reverse and start from the beginning here, from where you just ended it. I do believe there was a genesis. I do believe there was a point when something kind of changed. And I think when you just mentioned LeBron leaving, I think a large part of why he was leaving was this. I think LeBron, we knew the talent was there. He's MVPs. He went to the finals in 2007, but he loses. And I think all he starts to hear, because this modern era is the advent of debate shows daily, every single day. The advent of social media, this is hearing things, these conversations.
I'm just going to pause it because obviously Calvin Washington is setting up the blame. It's someone else's fault. Well, LeBron's the one talking, and LeBron's mouth is the reason that this is coming up again. Can you just put the blame where the blame belongs? And again, if anyone in the chat wants to chime in and help me out here, but I feel like it was intended to be for LeBron's benefit, always talking about, is this going to make him better than Jordan, or the people that actually said it did make him better? If people remember, they claimed that LeBron was better than Jordan before he even had 3 rings, which is insane. You know, he leapfrogged Kobe. We've talked about the weirdness of LeBron leapfrogging Kobe before. What else did Kelvin say there that was nonsense, Robin? As long as I'm paused.
Well, what he's doing there is he's setting up this nonsense like you were mentioning. But what he does is he's trying to talk about, where he's trying to talk about where the pressure came from on LeBron James and where the pressure come from. The pressure came from Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan set the bar. See, that's the problem, man. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with Michael Jordan setting the bar so high that it makes it damn near impossible for you to get over. That should be good for the sport of basketball, for the bar to be that high, to be like, damn. So if someone actually does surpass it, they have to be really, really, really freaking great, man, to pass and supersede that bar. That's where the pressure came from. I remember when I was young, there were a lot of people that believed if Michael Jordan didn't win more championships than Larry Bird, then he wasn't greater than Larry Bird. If he didn't win more championships than Magic Johnson, he was never going to be greater than Magic Johnson. Michael Jordan himself thought about these things. He had to supersede those guys. They set the bar. There was a bar set. All the players in their history set the bar. The George Mikens, the Bill Russells, the Will Chamberlains.
What you're saying here is Michael had to go through it.
Yeah.
And instead of failing and then delivering an excuse, he actually did it. And that's why we think Michael's the best. We're like, damn, Michael, you're a contender for maybe being the greatest ever already. But then he went out and kept winning, which made it unquestionable. LeBron didn't. And guess what? One of the reasons that this talk exists about the ring comparison is because of the Michael Jordan comparison in the first place. It's that simple. You shouldn't have been getting compared to Michael in the first place, especially if you're going to turn around and pretend that rings don't matter. But he never shunned that off. He was happy to be called the chosen one and the next one and the witnesses campaign and
number 23,
wearing
fool.
number 23 and mimicking some of the things that Jordan did. It's not like he ever said, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this. I just want to go out and be the best player I can. No, you don't get to be compared to Michael and have that carry you through, because the media always doing this fake. We all admit at this point, or at least our side of it admits, that the whole thing was manufactured just to keep people interested in LeBron James, a fake comparison to Michael Jordan. I mean, they're so different. It's a ridiculous comparison, but it helped LeBron's career and even fooled a lot of people. So don't turn around now, LeBron, and act like this comparison to Jordan's greatness and the number of rings is a problem. Very convenient timing on your part.
Yep. Oh, let me get my charger.
Daily. And we all know LeBron gets in the league, he becomes the hot topic. LeBron, the Cowboys, and the Lakers or Yankees, make sure you watch, rinse, repeat, say that every week, every day, the greatest hits. And so I think when he starts to hear, oh, he's not a Kobe. Well, he scores more than Kobe. He's a better passer than Kobe.
Why is LeBron so concerned about what he's hearing anyways? If his goal is just to go out and be the best he can be, we keep hearing about, what LeBron is hearing and the pressure being put on LeBron. Well, tune it out. You either can handle that and you're going to exceed those expectations, which is another funny one, Robin. All the times that we hear people say that LeBron exceeded expectations. Really? Could you be specific? What were the expectations? Because there were some expectations for him to be the next Jordan. Well, he didn't do that, so he certainly didn't exceed that one. He hasn't exceeded Kobe. What expectations did LeBron exceed? That's another narrative that they never really provide the specifics on, but the weak-minded will be like, oh, wow, that's a good point. Is it? Can you clarify before you say that it's a good point?
Yeah, but like you said, how did he succeed? So if he did, exceed expectations, how did he exceed these expectations? He went about it falsely. No one, once again, respects this. It's almost as if, you win the lotto and that's how you became a millionaire, right? You're not really going to get the same level of respect from the true millionaires, people who earn their monies by building a business or coming from scratch with their own two hands. You became a millionaire by winning the lotto. That's essentially what LeBron James is doing here. You somehow managed to get 4 championships, but look at the way that you won these things. Like we just mentioned, instead of you just dealing with the losses, dealing with that pressure, dealing with that grind, you decide to take a shortcut. You decide to go play the lotto. But not only did you play the lotto, you stacked all the odds in your favor. So you bought all the lotto tickets around in the country and played the lotto. You didn't really risk it. You put all the odds in your favor. That's why we laughed that you didn't win the lotto more often than you did. We're like, how the hell did you still lose more? After you had all the tickets bought up, you did everything in your power to put everything on your side. And somehow, some way, you still lost more. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, dear LeBron camp, was part of your expectations to see LeBron cowardly flee to a super team? Were you planning on that? I doubt you were planning on that. So don't tell me that he exceeded expectations. I'm guessing the original plan was for him to win rings without super team hunting. So he did not exceed your expectations. You changed what the expectations were as LeBron's career went along, and he continued to fail and fail and fail despite having the greatest odds at winning the lottery and not winning the lottery, as Robin just said. Justin Messenger says the Cavs 07 finals run is severely overrated. Indeed. And in fact, I think Kelvin Washington is going to once again say some nonsense about that in a minute. I've done several videos on that 07 run. It's a lie. It's just bullshit. It's just bullshit. And another video that would be interesting is showing how many moves and how much effort the Cavs did make to bring in pieces. And people act like they did nothing.
Yep.
They did way more. Even the Cavs, who are accused of doing nothing for LeBron, did more for LeBron than the Bulls did for Jordan.
Kobe, because Kobe won. Well, he can't be Jordan because Jordan won. And I think what starts to happen with him was shoot, I can be MVPs. I can be in the finals and lose. I can be an all-star. My team can win 55, 60 games. But if I don't win, people are going to never put me on this place. So I have to go to find a win because Cleveland.
Jesus Christ. How many people haven't done that? How many people haven't been MVPs? How many people haven't made it to the finals? The difference is when you get there and you show what you're made of and you're the reason that your team wins, Kelvin Washington. Why are you acting like this is a special scenario where LeBron James is being picked on? How do you want to separate the greats? Of course, this is what separates the greats. What the fuck is he talking about?
And you know what? A perfect example of this is the 2015 NBA championship, man. The finals against the Golden State Warriors when Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love went down. This was a legacy, scenario for LeBron James. This could have been a moment in time that he could have, hung his hat on. And his fans could have pointed to him and been, yo, listen, man, 2015, Kyrie Irving went down, Kevin Love went down. He didn't have his super team there. He just had a regular old team, right? And he went out there and led his team because remember, the Cavaliers were up 2-1. And I want people to understand, if you look at some of the end of those game scenarios in game 4, in game 5, right, when the Cavaliers had several chances, LeBron James himself missed several game-winning shots. At the end of those games, man, he just bricked up shots. He took bad shots, LeBron James. He looked unsure of himself in these moments. Even though he was getting help from his teammates, they were lifting him up. LeBron James couldn't come through in those moments. And that's why his team would go on to lose the next 3 games in a row.
God, you said so many good things there. I got lost about which one I wanted to respond to first.
And put anything around him at that time. So I think
he
jumped ship. And I think that same thing. So I have to go to find a win because Cleveland obviously didn't put anything around him at that time.
Bullshit. LeBron James is the reason that they didn't win a single game in those finals. Why did the team have the record that they had? How many moves were made at that point to bring in the people that were there? Stop acting like they didn't put anything around him. Every team, every franchise has been burdened with trying to put together the absolute perfect combination around LeBron James instead of LeBron James just making what he has work. It's his entire fucking career, Kelvin Washington. Oh. You got nothing?
No, my bad. I thought you were going to keep running it after you ranted. My fault.
I stopped myself specifically to give you an opening there. Here, read this super chat for me, and then continue your rant.
Shout out to Michael Statura coming through with the supers. Thank you very much. But keep in mind, just recently, Stephen A. Smith said that Giannis underachieved because he won just 1 ring so far, which personally I would take over 4 LBJ rings. Greetings from Poland. Much respect, guys. Yo, shout out to Poland. Thank you very much, Michael. I hope I said your name right. I probably jacked it up, man. Forgive me. But much respect for coming through. And absolutely, Stephen A. Smith just did knock Giannis for, I guess, only having one ring. But once again, when we talk about the journey, the grind, and what Giannis has done, remember, he's playing on the team that drafted him. He didn't bounce around. Can we point to any crazy, significant help that Giannis has had throughout his career? Giannis has continued to go out there and do his thing. He plays both sides of the ball, and he earned that championship ring. Remember, his team was down 2-0 in the NBA Finals, and they won 4 games in a row, and he played insane in those finals, man. So shout out to Giannis.
And by the way, what were Giannis's expectations if he supposedly underachieved? Because didn't Giannis come in as this like skinny dude, and we didn't really even know who he was until later on? Like, I just don't understand what was the criteria by which you get to decide that he underachieved? Who decides how many rings these guys are supposed to get, and at what point in time? And at what point in time do they just say this too often? Because they really hype up players before they've done anything nowadays. I'm not knocking Giannis. I'm not saying what his expectations for him should have been. This is a legitimate question. What were they?
His expectations were to lead the Milwaukee Bucks to their first championship since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, man. And what did he do? He did that. See, that was LeBron James' goal. LeBron James was supposed to bring Cleveland their first championship in any sport since Jim Brown. Jim Brown, damn it. And what did LeBron James do? He did it, but how did he do it? He had to leave to come back and bring a whole squad with him to do it. He didn't earn it like Giannis. He didn't go all those years. What was Nikola Jokic's goal? What did he do? He brought the Denver Nuggets their first championship, man. He brought them. He took them to the promised land. He did that. He earned it on the team that drafted him, going through all these years, grinding it out through these seasons, earning it the right way. Dirk Nowitzki. You remember what Dirk Nowitzki did, right? These are the guys that we're talking about.
And this is why people say that Dirk's rings are one ring is more important than LeBron's rings. And say the same about Giannis. And if Giannis' goal was to bring the team that drafted him a ring, then he achieved it. So what? I mean, I don't even know why we need to quote Stephen A. Smith or any of them at this point. They just spew nonsense. But I don't understand the criteria for saying he underachieved if he did what the goal was, and he certainly did it in a better way than LeBron did. LBW was here. Says Goat James, the greatest catfish of all time. Yeah. Hey, man, I was walking through North Beach and I was remembering me and my roommate actually made an effort like back in 2009 or something, or maybe even earlier. They were filming a Sprite commercial at the courts next to where we lived in LeBron. And I got to keep reminding people, I did not hate LeBron when he came in. We wanted to keep seeing amazing things happen in the NBA. We were not desperately clinging to the past of Michael. In fact, I'd let go of Michael a long time ago. I was ready to see Grant Hill. I was ready to see Derrick Rose. I was ready to see Allen Iverson, et cetera, et cetera. This idea that we only say what we say because we desperately need Michael Jordan is you guys projecting the way that you are about LeBron. Because you have some strange, desperate need to believe a lie. Michael Jordan proved things, and he made doubters believers. You guys were born believers and are just afraid of becoming doubters.
For real. Right. Exactly. In which I said, we're still trying to figure out, like you said, it's not just about Michael Jordan. It's about the greatness of a lot of these players. The main thing for me, well, I always tell people, I was like, how the hell did LeBron James end up right behind Michael Jordan? How the hell did that happen? When? Where? What? How? I don't know how this happened.
The Lonely One with a super chat. Thank you very much. Very, very much. Speaking of Giannis, did LeBron ever face the Bucks in the regular season? Because I heard he didn't. I don't know if you know that answer, and you're probably just setting me up to talk about it. But the answer is no, miraculously, for the last couple of seasons, just miraculously, Mr. Availability wasn't available for those games.
I mean, that would be like Michael Jordan ducking out on like Hakeem Olajuwon's Houston Rockets back in the 90s, or Michael Jordan ducking out on David Robinson's Spurs or Patrick Ewing's Knicks. Hey, I'm not playing against these guys. I'm not going to play against these dominant big men or these guys that could go out there and knock me on my butt. He never ducked the Detroit Pistons, Michael Jordan. He was always there.
Can you imagine if Michael had done any of the things that you just said? Like, we wouldn't be talking about him the way that we talk about him now. We wouldn't think about him the same way if he'd done the things that LeBron does. And that's why you can't compare the two of them. They represent competitive nature in a different way. They represent manhood in a different way. In fact, LeBron doesn't represent manhood. He is a flopping, whiny, tantrum throwing, complaining, therapy session needing, beard dying bitch.
No, that's a good point, AOA. Like you said, you can't, like, it doesn't make, like, we would not support. I did a video on this. I would not be a Michael Jordan supporter or respect Michael Jordan the way that I do if Michael Jordan would have done some of the things that we talked about. And I've mentioned the time in the 1995 NBA playoffs when Michael Jordan came back from baseball, right? Wasn't really the Michael Jordan that we remembered. And then you saw Michael Jordan go out there and take all the heat for the loss against the Orlando Magic, the turnover against Nick Anderson, and the overall, sloppy or, rusty looking game that we saw Michael Jordan play. And like I said, all the heat he was taking. Did Michael Jordan walk off the court early on the Orlando Magic? No. He actually stood on the court and watched them celebrate like they won the NBA Finals, hoisting up Horace Grant on their shoulders, parading around the court. That's the way the Orlando Magic celebrated beating the Chicago Bulls in the second round, guys. Not the NBA Finals or the Eastern Conference Finals. In the second round, that's how much it meant to them to beat Michael Jordan. He stood there and watched that. He didn't act like a sore loser. He didn't play the victim. He didn't make excuses. None of this stuff. Michael Jordan was a true professional and earned the respect.
So I think he jumped ship, and I think that same thing happened to Kevin Durant. Well, dang, I'm balling out. I'm an all-star, second best player in the league for all these years. I've been to the finals, with back in 2011, but 2012. But no one's gonna say anything about this unless I win. I think we started to have where these guys were so worried about if I don't win, and I started to freak out because I do believe.
Why do they always have to talk about other people to make LeBron justified? And listen, people don't like what Kevin Durant did. And now that I'm watching the 2012 games and breaking them down, I'm reminded of how tragic it is that they broke up that core. They were kids, man. You got to go through the hardship. You got to go through the fire. You got to lose before you win, especially when the refs make sure that you lose. And here, you know what I'm really taking away watching that game? LeBron was not the man even then when it came to taking the big shots, and Kevin Durant already was. They didn't win, but when it came to the time to hit those crucial shots, KD was already doing it back then, and KD continued to do it later in his career. For all of KD's faults, he's not afraid of that shot, and he certainly hits those types of shots more than LeBron.
Yeah, absolutely, LH. They're always talking about, like I said, this idea that this pressure these guys are facing or feeling to win championships. But Michael Jordan's mindset after he kept losing to Detroit wasn't, oh, let me go join Patrick Ewing or let me go join this guy or that guy. His mindset was, I got to get better. I got to go work on my game more. I got to do something different. I got to sacrifice more for my teammates, or I got to push these guys more. I got to get them up a level. I can't win with these guys at this level. But did he go to Jerry Krause and cry in the front office and be like, yo, I need a new player. We got to get somebody else. We got to trade this guy, that guy. No, that's not that. It's the complete opposite. Like I said, we said Michael Jordan's the antithesis of LeBron James. So he internalized and said, I got to make a change. Got to get better somehow, some way. LeBron James decided to, I'm not going to get better or push these guys or raise their level up, galvanize the team. No, he's not going to make any sacrifices playing an actual system. Nope, I'm going to take a shortcut. I'm going to dip out and have players around me so good, it's going to be damn near impossible for me to lose. The only way I can lose is if I jack it up, and that's what he did.
Animaniac says, the answer, AOH, is because LeBum has to borrow prestige. Yeah. KD calling himself a god. Yeah, that was weird. I mean, KD got worse as time went on. Insecurity started to creep in. He listened to people too much. But where was the other comment I wanted to read? Anyway, yeah, people talk about the Warriors super team. They were going against a super team. It's amazing how people overlook that each of those iterations of the Cavs, each offseason was another attempt to add. In fact, they grabbed Bogut out from underneath the Warriors. Fortunately, Bogut got hurt for the Cavs the way he got hurt for the Warriors. But
the ring culture started to be a conversation. When we were back in back,
God damn, Kelvin. The ring culture started to be part of the conversation. Robin, you nailed it earlier. Jordan had to surpass Bird. Jordan had to surpass Magic. The fact that he was a high flyer and did things we'd never seen before wasn't gonna be enough. He had to overcome it too. Stop acting like this is special criteria created for LeBron James. And if he can't measure up to that, then again, how do you say that he exceeded expectations?
back in the day, there's somebody who said Wilt Chamberlain was the best player in the league ever. Best, you know what best player ever was? Wilt Chamberlain. He had a ring. Bill Russell had 11, but they felt Wilt Chamberlain was more dominant, he's the best player in the league. Somebody said,
No.
Larry Bird. Hold on, I'll let you talk for quite a.
No. Sorry, Kelvin. You've talked for as long as Rob did. I couldn't be as patient as Rob because what Kelvin's talking out of his ass. If someone is speaking out of their ass, you should interrupt them, even if it's their turn, because it's called miseducation. Robin, you hate when these guys miseducate people. Do you think Kelvin Washington actually knows what people were saying about Wilt and Bill? No, you don't. You don't fucking know. I'd rather hear your opinion about what people were saying about Wilt and Bill.
I don't know what he was saying right there. Was he saying that someone was saying that they had Wilt Chamberlain as the greatest player of all time? Because he said that the best player in the league, Wilt Chamberlain's not currently playing.
He said that back then they were dismissing Bill Russell's rings and putting Wilt above Bill Russell.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that's what he was saying. Like we said, there were a lot of people that had Wilt Chamberlain as the greatest player of all time. There were people who had Bill Russell as the great. When I was growing up, there were still people that said Wilt Chamberlain was the greatest player of all time. There were still people that said Bill Russell was the greatest player of all time. Now, not everyone thought it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there were some people I remember saying it was Dr. J to them. Some people thought it was Oscar Robertson still in the 80s and the 90s, I remember. So, I mean, what are we saying here?
Well, that's just it. You're listing a bunch of people who were in the debate, and he's making it sound like it was across the board. Oh, the rings didn't matter to people, and the media made rings start mattering to people. That's just untrue. It's just untrue. Maybe some people felt that way, but it wasn't like societal standard that Wilt Chamberlain was better than Bill Russell, period.
Right. I mean, there were still people that thought George Mikan was the greatest basketball player.
I'm making the mistake of saying only those two names because Kelvin did, but the reality is they weren't even the only two in the conversation.
Larry Bird was the best player in the ever to them. A lot of people. Well, he had one, then he had two, then he had three. And for them, that was what they saw. I remember Reggie Miller being that guy. He could have been your favorite player, and people would have been like, oh, that's your favorite player? Okay, cool. Like, no, man, Michael Jordan be giving it to him. But the end conversation was never always rings. I do think we've gotten obsessed with rings over the last 15 years. We've gotten lazy with our contextualizing things. We've gotten lazy with our analysis where you go, Shaq can't even get something for Chuck. Like, let me tell you something. I got 4 rings. You don't have any. And it becomes lazy. Everything. Well, he's got 5 rings.
Shaq's bad example because Shaq is one of the most shockingly insecure people I've seen host a sports show.
But he brings up Shaq. Everyone knows that that's how Shaq is, man. You can't use Shaq as an example and make it a generalization. That's insane for these guys to make a stretch. The way that Shaq and these guys mess around with Charles Barkley and stuff. That's what they do, man.
And once again, you're using flaws of other people in order to try and raise LeBron instead of LeBron just raising himself. And again, we wouldn't be having this conversation if LeBron wasn't blabbering on therapy sessions. I mean, he's bringing it on himself. This is why you're talking about it, Kelvin. Shaq's not the reason we're talking about this today. LeBron is.
Well, he's got 6 rings. Well, he's got 3 rings. He hadn't won a ring. That's the laziest thing. So I do believe.
Stop acting like this came out of nowhere. You guys did it. The media did it. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this, Rob. And it was an idea in my head and I ran with it. But I feel like the media did spend a lot of time talking about whether or not, look, first, I think they expected LeBron to be better than he was and to accomplish more. And then when he didn't, they had to change to, well, maybe LeBron's rings count for more than Jordan's. And then, or will one more ring get LeBron onto Jordan's level? You shouldn't have kept saying it, which I guess is kind of what Kelvin is saying, except he's leaving out the point. They were doing it in an attempt to help LeBron, not to criticize LeBron, because every single time that he built a super roster in the offseason, what did they do? Say, damn, LeBron couldn't get it done with that roster. No, immediately they changed to saying, damn, that roster was terrible. Can they get LeBron help next year? Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Super team roster. Damn, this is a contender after the season. Oh, Jesus. Are they ever going to get LeBron some help? Every goddamn year, the same flip flop.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that LeBron James doesn't even live up to the own hype or the hype of his own people, like the Nick Wrights, the Shannon Sharps. I remember listening to Shannon Sharp after the Cleveland Cavaliers won the 2016 NBA Finals. They came back from the 3-1 comeback, a spectacular LeBron James, man, and then winning that championship, right? Everyone was riding high. I remember Shannon Sharp coming on the TV a couple of days later and started talking about and hyping up them for the next season. He started talking about, LeBron James about to win 2-3 championships in a row. And then they start to have the hypothetical scenarios. What if LeBron James wins 3 championships in a row? Does he pass Michael Jordan? These were the conversations they were talking about after the 2016 championship. What kind of stretch are we doing here? And then all of a sudden, Kevin Durant went to the Warriors. Everyone changed their tune. Everyone got real quiet. All of a sudden, no one had anything to say. But this not how they was doing. I remember Kendrick Perkins, the season they got Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony. They had all these guys on the team that year. And LeBron James told us to keep that same energy. Kendrick Perkins predicted they were going to win 70 games that season. They won 35.
I'm just relishing in that last line for a minute.
Insane.
I agree. That is a massive part of the equation. And if we start nitpicking, if I'm talking about Steph, I'm talking about Kareem, I'm talking about Hakeem, you got to start having those conversations, right? The little bit, okay, he's better here, he has more rings. That's a part of the equation. But I do believe there are some people that close their eyes blindly and go, well, he's got more rings. Who he's got more rings? Because that's all they've heard from debate shows. That's all they've heard on social media for the last 15.
Then you're talking about dumb people.
He's talking about like 13 and 14 and 15-year-old teenagers. And listen, there's nothing wrong with kids, talking about sports the way that they talk about it. But that's how there's no grown-ups. There's no true fan that's old enough to articulate their thoughts talking that way. These guys are a bunch of clowns. This is the reach that they're doing. Oh, yeah, that's how they do the arguments. Who is they? Who they? There's no they. The little kids out here on TikTok, the kids on Instagram that are talking this way. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, like your point. If you're young and you're still figuring things out, maybe you're going to form a premature opinion, and you're going to sound dumb when you look back, but you'll grow up. Maybe you won't. But for those people are going to exist, and it's a part of life. Sometimes you don't reference those people on a professional sports show, Kelvin. Get to the real meat of the topic. And speaking of the meat of the topic, he hasn't actually refuted anything that Rob has said so far. He's just gone into the weeds the way that LeBron fans do, trying to discredit other people, now he's blaming the media.
He's tiptoeing around the facts.
Yeah. Another super chat. Y'all, Sabag, thank you very much. LeBron's left hand touched the rim on that chase down block in Game 7, 2016. Goaltend. You guys are the best. Yeah, I've talked about that. Technically it was. I have kind of leaned towards saying, I don't know if I would, I don't think that you call that in that situation. The problem is, especially when I look at this 2012 finals. They don't keep the same energy when it comes to calling ticky-tack shit that helps LeBron. In fact, how about Steph Curry and the shit that he fouled out on? I mean, listen, if you're going to foul out Steph Curry on questionable calls in the finals, then maybe you do call a goaltend when someone touches the rim, even though it didn't affect the play. Hey, you know, if your calls are going to be questionable, then let's be questionable.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Airways, to me, that's a non-call. I do agree with the comment, and like I said, much respect. Thank you for the support. I do agree that it was technically a goaltend, but it's a non-call. Listen, there's been many scenarios in NBA's history, guys get away. I mean, did Michael Jordan push off in Game 6? Listen, we know all these things, man. Many scenarios, guys may have gotten away with a travel here. Maybe they got the shot up. It was past the shot clock by a split second, but they didn't have replay back in the 80s or the 90s like that, right? So these kinds of things happen in the history of the NBA, man. The thing that we have to remember about that scenario is that this goes and shows that LeBron James does get the benefit of the doubt within these kinds of scenarios, that he doesn't have all the calls go against him or some kind of plot against him, or that only Michael Jordan got the calls in his favor. All the superstar players get the benefit of the doubt. But the main thing that we have to remember, if this was Michael Jordan, or if that was Michael Jordan who had a play like that, they would have always been hyping up J.R. Smith in that scenario. They would have been, yo, man, Michael Jordan don't get that block without J.R. Smith, man. Michael Jordan don't get that block without J.R. Smith. They would have always tried to bring him up in that scenario. That's a LeBron James fan tactic. But in that scenario, you never hear LeBron James fans bring up J.R. Smith and the effort, the hustle that he did and what he did for that play. Without J.R. Smith forcing Iguodala to make that adjustment, there's no chance for LeBron James to really block that without fouling Andre Iguodala. There's no way. But J.R. Smith is there. So you never hear LeBron James fans talk about him. Once again, another LeBron James fan minimized in a moment.
I got to tell you, I mean, it should have come up at least once. At least once somebody acknowledged J.R. Smith's role in that. Mczuggins says that he has some receipts. I'm going to let him call in for a minute. Do you have a couple more minutes, Robin?
Yeah, I got like 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, yeah, we'll wrap this up pretty quick. Maybe we'll end the show with bubble in a cup instead of starting.
Yes.
All right, Mczuggins, the link has been posted. That was Mczuggins, I think.
Yeah, Mczuggins, shout out.
Yawn is so boring, and there's no ability to contextualize or have a conversation with nuanced conversation. I absolutely strongly believe that people have done that. And my last point, and I think this is a compliment to somebody in particular. I think this is a compliment to Kobe Bryant. You say how? I'll tell you how. Kobe Bryant was the first real person that we saw that you could legitimately have a conversation. Is he on par with Jordan? Harold Miner, baby Jordan. Get out of here. Grant Hill, he's the next Jordan. Heck of a player, not that. Allen Iverson, no, he's heck of a player, not that. Kobe Bryant was the first person you started to go, look like him, talk like him, sound like him, chew gum like him, same size, shoot like him, fade away like him. Oh, shoot. He just won 3 straight rings just like him. And it was the first time we started to have a conversation of, could he?
Well, it wasn't just like him. Michael never had the luxury of a Shaq.
Yeah, for real, absolutely
could he
not.
be as good? Could he be better? He's even younger because he came straight out of high school. And immediately we start saying, no, he can't because Jordan had 6.
Well, Jesus. Where do you want him to go? Where do you want him to go from there? I don't know. I was very confused about where he was going to go with that. And that's where he went with it. Well, Jesus, where did you want them to go after that? You said that he was checking all the boxes in all the other ways. Then what do you do naturally? You continue to try to check the other boxes, right? Mczuggins is waiting. Calvin Washington. I guess we've heard enough of his nonsense. Let's hear what Mczuggins has to say. Hello, sir. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon. How you guys doing?
Good. Bring those receipts.
Yo, Mczuggins was good.
I'm glad, man. It's kind of funny to say, but as soon as I saw just a clip of that, I was thinking, oh my God, I cannot wait for the next live. There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah, fortunately, Robin was available today, and so we're doing it.
I'm glad. Well, anyway, so I just I have to call this out. You mentioned it earlier, and it took, I don't know, 2 seconds, not even, just 2 seconds to find it. But because I remembered it. I remembered it from the time, just like, what? Who is this guy to say something like that? That's crazy. But okay, sure. Let's see what you got. And then now to think back that, like, oh, okay, so now we're going to go the exact opposite. All right, I get it. But so, okay, a ring is a team accomplishment. I don't need to prove anything, right? Ring culture is flawed. People act like that's the only thing that matters. All that. Okay. Which people exactly? Because I remember, and I literally pulled them up 2 seconds. I came to Miami for one reason, to win championships. When I left Cleveland, I was on a mission. I was seeking championships, and we won too. Then he comes home. I came back to Cleveland for a reason. I came back to bring a championship to our city. I know what I was capable of doing. That's what it was all about.
Yeah.
That last one was on the uninterrupted thing. But then when it does, and I want to point out, they say, oh, well, he's not being consistent. That's logically inconsistent. He's lying, whatever. No, it's completely consistent. When he loses in the finals, or when he loses in that comparison, or on any subject that he loses, well, it's a team thing. It's a team accomplishment. It's the team you have around you. It's the front office. It's the staff. It's the media. It's the culture. It's what people are saying. It's the new era. It's the way the game has evolved. It's every other thing except for I cared about it. I tried. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I'm not as good.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the best player on the court today. Maybe there was a year, maybe there was a time where I was the best player on the court. I did my best. It's not about all that other stuff. It's just about me trying to do my best. I could respect that. There might even be good arguments for that. But instead, that one right there made me the greatest of all time. All these comparisons to everybody else who ever played. The last point I want to make on this, when you talk about, because it's like nails on a chalkboard. What about Wilt versus Russell, right? What were they saying back then? What were they saying? Whatever, right? Why do you have to go back then? This is a false dilemma. I mean, go look this. I mean, anybody in chat, go look this up, especially fanboys. Just go look up what is a false dilemma, and then go listen to this crap again and tell me it's not. What were they saying back then? Why should we care what they're saying back then? Ring culture today has everybody caring only about the rings, and that's not fair to compare LeBron James to Michael Jordan. When they say that Michael Jordan won 6, that's not fair because Michael Jordan, whatever fucking excuse you want to make for it, and LeBron James had some other reasons and whatever. Okay, fine. Why do you have to go back to what they were saying back then about Wilt and Russell? If that were true, if that culture was true, if that's what was happening today, you could easily look around at everybody discarding Michael Jordan and claiming Bill Russell is the greatest who ever lived, and that would be the ring culture today. It's not. Clearly, it's not about the ring culture by itself exclusively. That's a false dilemma. We're arguing Jordan because, in addition to everything else that people argue, the rings are also better, and his performance in those finals were better.
Yeah,
It's just insane that if that were true, we would be talking about Russell today. Jordan would not be mentioned.
yeah, and you effortlessly brought up examples of actual quotes of LeBron saying he was doing it to bring rings. And then, of course, the other obvious one that I just bypassed because I was focused on how they try to over-glorify LeBron's rings is that they also spend a shitload of time saying that LeBron is the greatest without the rings because of all of these other accolades, which makes when LeBron says, why does it have to be the end all be all? Just complete horseshit. Well, your camp is playing both sides. I was going to say your camp is playing you don't have to have all those rings, but sometimes they play that side too by trying to inflate his rings. Mczuggins, anything else before we let you go? Thank you for the receipts.
I think that stuff is crazy, but I'll leave stuff like that to y'all professionals over there. I just needed to bring the receipts to this point because that's insane. But thank y'all very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate your content. You guys are the best.
I appreciate
Yo,
the support.
Mczuggins, man, thanks a lot for coming through. I appreciate it.
Cheers, SNF. Thank you very much.
Got a couple of supers coming through, which is awesome. Greatly appreciated. JB was here, says boats, Epo, Diddy Deeds, all match his character. Oh, you know something Mczuggins said? Just LeBron's insecure quotes. It's what you see when you see. it's what LeBron's got to be feeling in here at the end of games when he sees the opportunity to hit that game-winning shot and he's not comfortable with it. And that feeling never went away. He never figured out how to defeat that. And that is exactly what that feeling is what we're hearing when he goes on his therapy sessions and explains away these things. Ugh. Let's read Grandpa MC. The block that Tayshaun Prince had on Reggie Miller at the end of the game was way better than the LeBron block that's pumped up. Yeah, you know what? In fact, I've seen a few chase down blocks by other people that don't ever get talked about. People act like LeBron's the only one who's ever done it. Thoughts, Robin?
Shout out to Grandpa MC for throwing out and mentioning Tayshaun Prince and mentioning that chase down block that he had. And the really cool thing about that block, or I guess the fascinating thing about it, is that Reggie Miller underestimated the amount of space that Tayshaun Prince could cover in a short amount of time. That man covered so much distance in such a short amount of time with those long arms. Reggie Miller completely underestimated his ability to do that, man. That was great hustle by Tayshaun Prince.
Yeah, and good on Reggie for calling it what it was. It was like, shit, I underestimated him. Not a goddamn therapy session talk show about I don't know. I'm trying to think of the LeBron James version. Gemini girl. Gemini. He always has to denigrate something if he doesn't have that particular capability. Yeah.
For real.
I mean, just overcome. Can you just overcome for once?
Shout out Gemini girl. Thank you. Right on the money as usual.
With that, shall we end with the song?
Let's do it. That sounds like a good one to me, man. Once again, man, thank you to all you guys that came through and supported the live stream. It really means a lot, guys. We're going to end it with the bubble in the cup. You guys, shout out to my man, Lamar Wallace, who sent that to AOH, who blessed us with his talents, man. Shout out to all you guys, man. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And the super chats were super appreciated, and the memberships super appreciated. Well.
A bubble in a cup, a bubble in a cup. All you gave LA was a bubble in a cup. You want a statue, but you ain't done enough. All you gave LA was a bubble in a cup. Bubble in a cup, bubble and a cup. All you gave LA was a bubble in a cup. Demand respect, but won't give none up. All you gave LA was a bubble in a cup. Bum. Fucking clown. Of the flop, yeah, he do it a lot. A king ain't a king if his crown ain't righteous. You the GOAT on a team with the worst plus minus. Spineless, cause every time you lose, you run. But when you win, it's handshakes, giggles, and hugs. Ain't no coach's job safe around you if a teammate outshines or rebounds you. Knife to the back, boy, you about to be traded. You don't believe me? Ask Anthony Davidson. I don't give a damn about your all-time scoring or the stats you pass. You never be Jordan. Get his number off your back, lil' bum, you're not worthy. The worst Laker to ever wear the jersey. Lil' GM might be worth his weight in money. The only thing clutch about you is your company. A bubble in a cup, a bubble in a cup. All you gave LA was a bubble in a cup. You want a statue, but you ain't done enough. All you gave LA was a bubble in a cup. A bubble and a cup, a bubble and a cup. All you gave LA was a bubble and a cup. Kobe told you they don't hang them fake banners up. All you gave LA was a bubble and a cup, you bum.